Hello and welcome to True North Radio. Me, Brandy, reporting for the Battlefords on Treaty 6 territory. So our first video, QAnon Exposed, here on the prairies, I gave a breakdown of the history from religious persecution and intolerance from Europe, certainly during the beginning of the 19th century. And then you're seeing a flooding of these people being settled here. And let's go really fast to the beginning. Let's go. So now it's the 21st century, and radical Protestantism is firmly rooted, particularly, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Manitoba, rural Ontario, rural Quebec. So I was raised in what has been defined by psychologists, philosophers, social workers, as theologians, as a cult. So I was raised in a fairly prominent Christian cult here in the Battlefords from birth to the age of 15. For the next 15 years, I was rigorously deprogrammed by psychiatric nurses, beautiful people, psychologists, myriads of mental health professionals. I worked with into my adult life. Because the harm of a cult is its ability to indoctrinate the individual, and essentially what this does is it takes away their critical thinking skills. You do not have any when you are indoctrinated into a cult. You obey. And so rigorously deprogrammed. But what does this have to do with QAnon? Well, when QAnon began, like I said, I was kind of snooping around there. 2015, 2016, subreddits, 4chan, 8chan. There was a lot of censorship going on during the 2016 Democratic presidential, nominee race with Bernard Sanders and, Hillary Clinton. So there was a lot of censorship. So what ended up happening in late 2015, early 2016 is that you saw a lot of these groups going underground. So they went to different platforms to talk. They made their own platforms to talk. So then, I would follow down to see, what are you all talking about? And, this is what they're talking about, is it's a very militant blend of pseudo-spiritual, a lot of biblical, literal biblical interpretations, and that's juxtaposed with politicians and political understandings. Like Trump, he's going to drain the swamp. So the right very much caught on to the language of the indoctrinated radical Christian right on the ground. And they have juxtaposed and moved the meaning. However, I was thinking of myself, because I noticed that when I was on these platforms and I was listening and I was watching and I was seeing, you see too a lot of anti-Semitism. You see a lot of you see a lot of Islamophobia. You see a lot of very uncomfortable, militant aspects of QAnon. And, as I went further down, I began to feel very, not myself, you see. I'm not myself, you see, down here with QAnon. I just think, what if I was a kid? What if I wasn't deprogrammed by the people at mental health in the Battlefords who had a very strong understanding of what I was going through? And my counselor of my whole life a champion of mental health here in the Battlefords. Before my husband and I left to go study in Nova Scotia, we sat down and we talked, and she said to me, the indoctrination of the Christian, militant Christian religions in Saskatchewan, in the rurals, isn't getting better. She said, I see kids like you, how you were when you came to us. I see them more and more and more. And that was about, oh my God, that was like 10 years ago. She told me this. And I just wonder, what path would I have gone down? I was, deprogrammed enough to be inside of QAnon, be inside of all of this stuff, and recognize it for what it was. This is why it's important to me to really get out there and really talk about, in Canada and around the world, there is a very dangerous elitist narrative that is becoming, popularized and co-opted by politicians because it's expedient. Hey? And like I say, people who are indoctrinated into a cult, particularly a Christian death cult, if they are not deprogrammed, they truly believe what they're doing is going to save the kids from being trafficked. They really believe that our greatest sin on this planet is with the utter contempt we treat the sacred, the children. And so their feeling of these people they're attaching themselves to politically, they have a feeling that maybe this is the only way, is to completely destroy anyone who will get in the way of fulfilling God's law. And I know sometimes people are like, well, how can anyone believe that? Because they've been indoctrinated to believe that. They've been taught to believe that. Imagine being 7 or 8. Imagine asking, what is God? Imagine being told, God is wrathful, and the blood will be on your hands. And the end times, you must recognize the signs. Satan is here. Satan is always watching. When you're 7, 8, 9, 10, you don't know any better than what your parents tell you. And there's a lot of folks who have been raised with similar radical Christian right indoctrination on the prairies. And it's very real, it's very dangerous, and it's very, very sad. And we need to start talking about Christianity and what that means. And we need to start talking about this attraction and to politics of a very, very radical group of people. And I don't know what to do. I mean, I can recognize it. I can see it. And I can see it taken off. And I can see it becoming something that we need to put our heads together and start talking. All right, that's part 2. So again, thank you for indulging me.